Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to change the view. I hope you enjoyed the music and the slideshow. We'll show it at the end as well for everyone who missed it. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. Greetings, and we're just happy that you're able to be here this evening at 8 o'clock Eastern. It's 5 o'clock in somewhere else on the West Coast, so I guess it's not too late. We're going to try and just go for 2 hours today from 8 to 10. I'm Dr. Tahita Sabri, Ambassador of the Afro Descended Nation, and your moderator for this special occasion. So on behalf of the Honorable Silus Muhammad, I warmly welcome you to our annual tribute to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in honor of his birthday, October the 7th, 1897. So today is 128 years later, and we gather not only to celebrate the messenger's life and enduring legacy, but also to reflect on the 44 years of his tireless labor in giving birth to our nation. So this evening, our distinguished speakers will share their insights on the significance of the times we are living in today and the urgency of unity. Together, we will explore how coming together as one people is the essential first step towards establishing an independent, sovereign nation that we can truly call our own as we continue to uplift and carry forward the work and teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But first, to kick us off, let's hear from the messenger himself. I'm going to play this brief video. It's 2.5 minutes, so please sit back and listen carefully. And I will pull that up right now. You should be viewing that now. And let's get some sound.
I want to say to you, my beloved listeners, that you are living in the judgment now. Yes, sir. This is the judgment, and we are trying to separate you from that which God came to destroy.
Yes, sir.
Because you have no rights to go along with it when you don't belong to white people.
Yes, sir.
You belong to yourself.
Yes, sir.
You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people.
Yes, sir.
You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself.
Yes, sir.
There will be a great separation.
Yes, sir.
So I say it is on now.
Yes, sir.
As the Bible teaches you, when you see people being called by the name of God in your midst, having his mouth,
Yes, sir.
that's the day of resurrection and the great separation.
Yes, sir.
You must be separate. Ignorant people, having not the knowledge of this scripture, of the Bible, they will say to you, why separate?
Yes, sir.
That's a lover of the enemy.
Yes, sir.
And they don't want to be separated. But they will be separated. They get that.
Right. Yes,
The Holy One teaches us that on that day, you that have made friends with the enemy will wish that the distance between you and them was the distance of the east and the west.
sir. Yes,
To tell you the truth, you begin wishing that as soon as you know yourself.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're that running around wanting to integrate and marry with them. that won't stand. As the Bible teaches you, your agreement with hell will not stand.
Right.
I want to say to you, my beloved listener.
So that is from, let's see if I'm sharing the right view here. Okay, so that was from Savior's Day back in 1974, I believe, one of his last speeches. And so we honor him, and we are focusing on what he just said. And, you know, nobody can speak better than he can. His own team. So his message is clear, and in honor of his teachings, our speakers will discuss how he has prepared us for both mental and physical separation from our oppressors. So we will discuss the 4 practical steps in establishing a sovereign nation that we can call our own. And I'm okay. Know if my view is right. Okay. So what are those 4 steps? It's 4 basic steps. Number 1 is coming together in unity based on our shared identity as one people. Number 2 is control of a defined territory, which we will discuss land options. And we are blessed to have Professor James Small on with us, and he's going to break that down for us as well, to talk about what's available now. Then the 3rd step is establishing a functioning government in which we can govern ourselves. And number 4 is seeking international recognition. So our speakers are going to talk about each one of those subjects. And before we get started with our first speaker, which is going to be Minister Ahmed, I see he is down there, Minister Ahmed. Go ahead and turn your mic and your sound on. But I just want to say we're being broadcasted live on Facebook right now, and we are recording this program, which will be available later. So please stay muted unless you're called upon, and you may use the chat box for comments and questions, and we will have time at the end to address as many as we can. So bringing on our first speaker, he is Minister Ahmed Sadi, and he is the Chief Minister of the Lost Foundation of Islam under the leadership and guidance of the Honorable Silus Muhammad, who is the spiritual son of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he will discuss how the messenger prepared us for both mental and physical separation from our open enemies. So let's give our full attention to Chief Minister Sadiq. Let me see if I can spotlight you, sir. There you are. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that, Dr. Tahita. As she stated to you, I am the newly appointed Chief Minister of the Lost Foundation of Islam. Some of you may be familiar with the former Chief Minister, Najib Muhammad. So when she said Chief Minister, you probably were expecting to see my brother, my older brother, Najib Muhammad. So I am the newly appointed Chief Minister of the Lost Foundation of Islam. Listening to the messenger's presentation and also thinking about the seriousness of the time that we're in and the information that has to be disseminated to you in a relatively short amount of time. Before I start, I would like to let you know under whose authority I am speaking. And I think that is going to become extremely important and relevant as we begin to proceed and or move forward into our final moments in the United States of America. So it is in the name of His Majesty, Master Faraj Muhammad, the Savior of you and I, the lost found sheep in the wilderness of North America. And it is also in the name of our spiritual mother Mary of the book, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah forever be upon his holy name. And it is in the name of our Lord and Savior, the Honorable Silus Muhammad, and on behalf of our dearly beloved Queen, the Queen of Queens, Mashaki Muhammad, that I greet you in our nation greeting words of peace of As-Salam Alaikum. So I am elated to have an opportunity to be with you tonight. It is for me a long time coming. I'm expecting I'm expecting upon the conclusion of our meeting and or meetings to have gathered our people and to have gotten you out of the way safely. That is the reason why we are doing what we're doing. And that is my hope and my prayer that Master Farad Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Silus Muhammad work is not in vain. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad will point out to us the intentions of our enemy and or nemesis. He would let us know that they intend on slaughtering all of us. Now, when I first heard the information and first was introduced into the Lost Foundation of Islam, I didn't have the information that I have now. I didn't have the knowledge on what was going on. I knew that there was something different between Black people and white people, but I did not know that they were our open enemy. So when I began to study the information that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had disseminated for us, it blew my mind that we were actually living among people who were our enemies and who desired to kill each and every last one of us, every Black man, woman, and child. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was taught by Master Farad Muhammad. Master Farad Muhammad will begin to explain to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that you're dealing with a people who desires to eliminate every Black man, woman, and child on the planet. After giving that information to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he would let the Honorable Elijah Muhammad know, brother, it is necessary for you to get our people together, clean them up, so you can separate them from their open enemies. Now, in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's book, Message to the Black Man, page 107, the messenger pointed out that many Americans, especially the Southern whites, don't like the idea, okay, of Black people marrying white people. He said, but they'll be persuaded by the more learned whites in the North. The reason why they'll be persuaded is because the more learned whites in the North will let them know that this is only something that we're doing to get them closer to us so we can eliminate them once and for all. Now, there was a situation that transpired, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed it out to us in Message to the Black Man too. And this situation is when Nat Turner, you all are familiar with Nat Turner, when Nat Turner had an uprising, he began to kill white people. And as Nat Turner had his uprising, he began to kill white people. You know how that story ended. He wasn't too successful with that. Eventually, and or ultimately, Nat Turner was caught and he was killed. So the environment that was created after that transpired and or took place was an environment where Caucasian people came together in a House of Delegates, and I believe it was 1832. And there is a famous letter called the William Berry letter. And inside of that letter, they're having a discussion because some white people are shook based on the fact that Black people had the nerve to rise up and go against white people and or defend themselves. Now there's another Caucasian guy who's having a discussion with William Berry, and he's saying to them that, listen, we've closed every avenue through by which light may enter into the slave mind. We only have one step to go, and they'll be on the same level as the beast in the field. And the other Caucasian would interject and say to him, but sir, is it possible for men to be among free men? And as he's entertaining this question, if it's possible for men to be among free men, and I know that he says eventually, ultimately, there'll come a time when they'll realize that they're not really free. When that takes place, there's going to be a death race between us when one or the other will wipe each other out. Now, this is taking place in 1832. We know that Master Farad Muhammad was in and out of America ever since 1914. He made himself known in 1930. I was speaking with a brother earlier, and I said, so that's approximately 16 years. What was he doing in those 16 years coming in and out of the United States of America? I would go on a limb to say, I would imagine that he was observing the condition of Black people. He was setting certain things up, putting certain people in certain places, getting certain information, and that's how he was able to tell us these are the intentions of the Caucasian white man and the government of the United States of America. What they intend to do is to kill each and every Black man, woman, and child. Now, there's a doctor named Benjamin Hayes, and he wrote in 1905, the Black man has never been a competitor, but has always been subservient to the white race. And just as long as he remains subservient, his position is secure. And just as soon as he becomes a competitor, his fate is sealed. So in other words, as long as we can keep them as slaves, they are an asset. The moment that they begin to assert any kind of freedom, then they become a liability. Now, if and when that takes place, that they want to assert their freedom and they become a liability, at that point, we have to wipe them out. So now the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is receiving the information from Master Farad Muhammad. Master Farad Muhammad is making him aware that, brother, you have gotten to the point where your 400 years in slavery in America is up. So as the messenger stated, just the natural spirit of freedom is going to be working inside of you all. And at a certain point, you're going to want to get up and you're going to want to assert that freedom. But I just let you know that the gentleman said, when you get to that point, your fate is sealed. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, having that information, working on that knowledge, knew that it was necessary for us to galvanize our forces and get out of the way. Now, we do have situations where the Caucasian expressed himself, for lack of a better word, and showed how serious he was in this matter. There's a situation called, or a point in history where they talked about, it's called the Devil's Punch Bowl. And this is where they gathered Black people who were free and murdered them, men, women, and children. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad will go on to point out that what they intend on doing is killing us through the water. They intend on killing us through the food. He said the secret death that they plan for us is through the food. So as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is giving us this information, pleading with us in so many ways and or words to come together and to get out of the way before we end up in a situation like you're almost in today. Today, 2025, the government of the United States of America, the executive branch led by Trump, has emboldened the white supremacists to proceed as planned. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as I stated to you earlier, stated that the Southern white man back in that time didn't really want to go along with the plea that we got to kill them but we got to do it in a way that's, I mean, is there such a thing? We got to do it in a way where it's humane, to where it doesn't really look like we're the ones that's doing it. So allow us, this is the northern white man saying to the southern white man, allow us the opportunity to put together programs where we can use chemicals, and biologically, through biological and chemical warfare, we will have wiped these niggas out. And the only place that you will see a Black person is in a museum. This thought stems back to one of their eugenicists, Eugene Fisher, when he was doing experiments with Black people, and they were saying that if we continue in the direction that we're going in with eugenics, we can wipe them out. So the Caucasian who was down south, listening to this, he agreed that as long as the plan that you have, the end result of it is that we eliminate Black people at 20, 30, 40, 50 years, then I'm fine with that. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to them that the agreement that you have made, that's interesting, that the agreement that you made with Hale is not going to stand, that the agreement that some of the Blacks made with the whites. I ponder over that statement. Who made an agreement with Caucasian people concerning you and I? Is there a segment or a group of our people that convinced the Caucasians that we will wipe out the vast majority of them as long as we can stay and as long as we can have a just and or proper future with you? That's for you and I to ponder over and get everything we can out of that statement. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that those in the South only agreed with those in the North because they were convinced that that was the only way that they can get a final stroke at us. When you say final stroke, that means what? Finish it. That when we get to this point, we will have just about eliminated and or wiped out all Black people. So the messenger would plead with you. The messenger would tell you to come together. The messenger would give you the knowledge of yourself. He said, I'm not teaching you a religion. I'm giving you the history of both people, Black and white. And based on the history that he gave us of our nemesis, the Caucasian white man, you see that he has been a murderer of ours ever since he's been on the planet. So when Honorable Elijah Muhammad began to elaborate, pointed out, give us people, places, and things, and dates, that should have been enough at that time for us to listen and or reclaim our own. For whatever reason, we didn't do that. You were sold into civil rights. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad will point out to you that you need human rights first before you can get civil rights. But we were sold into that. When the Lost Foundation of Islam was leading the charge in the Black community, at that time, you were prolific. You had gained international attention and or international support. And there will be those who were across the other side of the water that will say the Black man in America is leading the charge for freedom, justice, and equality. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed away and the Lost Foundation of Islam fell, the charge inside of the Black and or Afro-Descendant community is being led now by those other than Lost Foundation of Islam Muslims. Now look at our communities. And as much as it's being led by those other than Lost Foundation of Islam Muslims, they don't quite understand the root cause of our problem, which is not having the knowledge of ourselves. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was told by Master Farah Muhammad, brother, not a one of you can currently leave with what it is that you have. You must forego unrighteousness and you have to clean yourselves up. I am going to establish for you 2 classes, one for your men, one for your women. These are both general civilization class. One of them is for the men called the FOI, and the other one is for the women called MGT. Once they emerge from these classes, the FOI and the MGT, at that particular point in time, they'll be fit to enter in amongst our own people. They would have the knowledge of themselves. They'd be clean internally and externally. They'd be speaking the truth, practicing the righteous conduct. Thus, they will be an asset to any nation that they go to. Please understand this. Please understand this. if you are not an asset to any nation that you go to, they will not accept you. So he had to begin to clean us up mentally when you come into the FOI, the MGT. And as you're taught how to be respectful men, as you're taught how to be respectful fathers, as you're taught how to be respectful sons and or daughters. Once that house is together, and then the block is together, then the community is together, now you have something that you can present to the rest of the world that's favorable to you. You're promoting Black excellence as opposed to white supremacy. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and even if you look at that Savior's Day video, he did an excellent job with getting a great number of our people. We had exceeded, help me with this, Brother Captain, it was at least, we had passed 144,000.
450,000 registered believers.
450,000 registered believers. And if you had 450,000 registered believers, you can go on the record and say it was probably another 50,000 who were active in their own way. So at that point, we had convinced the rest of the world that we understood who we were, what our mission was, and that we were ready to march out of the United States of America. The MGT and the FOI, those particular groups that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had established were world renowned. Once the Lost Foundation of Islam failed and others began to lead the charge in the Afro-Descendant and or Black community, you begin to see the morality, the values of the Black community go to an all-time low. And this is where you are now, the vast majority of our people. So there's a justification on the side of the white supremacists to wipe you out. Just bear with me. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would tell us that according to what Master Farad Muhammad told him, we're given a certain amount of time to labor. And that when that time is up, then there'll be another segment that moves in, and it won't be for talking, they'll be for the actual physical destruction of the United States of America. He said it's far more important to teach separation than it is to pray. We can pray later when we get out of the United States of America. He said, brother, the bombs that they're gonna drop, you can't outrun them. So the FOI and the MGT was to get us together mentally so we can make a favorable, well, the Savior said this. The Savior said, you have to market yourself. Out of the 144,000, you want to see you got 10,000 that's doctors and 10,000 that's lawyers and another 10,000 that's engineers. That way, when we make our physical exodus, we are attractive to any other civilized nation. You have to be civilized. Our people currently today in 2025, for the most part, are uncivilized. Now, I'm in the city of Chicago. And in the city of Chicago, if you have not heard, this is one of the cities where they have deployed ICE and the FBI and the CIA, and they're talking about sending the National Guard. Now, in the city of Chicago, it's not as it's made to seem as it relates to gang banging and gun violence. But if you watch the news, you think when you walk down the street, every 5 minutes, somebody's getting shot. That's not the case. That's not true. So what we have taken place in the city of Chicago is the planning and or the thinking of your nemesis to position themselves to begin to eliminate Black people. Believe you me when I tell you.
2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Initially, they said that they came in the city for the immigrants. That's what they said initially. Now, they're saying that they're in the city for the gangbangers. So one would ask, how can you tell who's a gangbanger? How do you make a determination who's a gangbanger? So for the most part, they're talking about young Black men in the city of Chicago where they are preparing to, as Steve Miller said, who's a part of Donald Trump's staff, to unleash their federal agents and their police. He told them, you are unleashed. You have whatever you need, you have our full support. So the premises and or the notion of separation is becoming a must if you are going to survive. And on the heels of the Nat Turner incident, they had decided at that point that they were going to kill you when you decide to assert your freedom. That was determined way back then. Now they're just trying to figure out how to do it. They did it through the food, they did it through abortion, they're doing it through autism. That's taking too long. So now the Southern white man is saying to the Northern white man, we're going to line up and murder every last one of those niggas. That's current, that's your current state. That's where we're at today. Salam.
Thank you, Chief Minister. That was an excellent presentation and breakdown of how the messenger prepared us for both mental and physical separation, and the urgency is now. So thank you for those enlightening words, and we're going to bring on our next speaker, who is Professor James Small. He's a renowned Pan-African activist and scholar. And as founder of the Cultural Heritage African Tours, he has led countless educational and cultural pilgrimages across Africa, Haiti, and the United States. Professor Small brings a wealth of knowledge on the vital topics of land and territory, and he will report on different options for repatriation to a land that we can call our own, with the ultimate goal of continuing the legacy and mission of that has been inspired by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So please join me in welcoming Professor James Small.
Salam alaikum to everyone, and happy birthday to the messenger. We know you're still with us because we're here celebrating your teachings. So the brother covered so much in his presentation. Some of that I'll probably go over, but just trying to be strategic. We know that we've been in this land for more now than 400 years. And we know coming out of 1865, I think we founded more than 1,200 Black communities. The necessity of that day forced us into that. But we also know that in that period of time between 1865 and 1960, most of those communities were destroyed, or we were driven out by Jim Crow laws and by really terrorist sheriff and police departments. But many of our community were burned to the ground and our people displaced right here in good old the United States of America. So much of what the minister was saying in terms of their blueprint and their plan, they've carried a lot of that out. But our resilience have been a little bit more than I think they expected. They've never really truly understood how we've been able to stand. And so one of the things that the messenger brought, though there was other teachers before, there was no teachers that had the effect the messenger had and the wide range program in terms of solution for African people. And when he talked about the great separation, there's still those who think there's some way we can merge and unite with the European American or with the European worldwide. There's nothing in our history, nothing in his history that showed a possibility of that, neither on the continent of Africa, in the Caribbean, Central South America, Australia, Southeast Asia, where he genocided millions of our people over these last few centuries. And so when the messenger talked about the great separation as being a necessity, he was talking about our ability to get to know ourselves. He said that was essential. We must know ourselves. Our children and our people must learn about the Harriet Tubman, the Frederick Douglass, the Toussaint Louverture, the Nat Turner, the Marcus Garvey, the Drew Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who's one of our great lights, because most of the people that would follow him, that many of us follow their teachings but don't come back to the messenger, got it from the messenger. You know, I was an imam of the Muslim Mosque, Inc., founded by Malcolm X. I went to Mecca decades ago as El-Hajj Amin Shaheed, but Malcolm was a student of the messenger. Most of the brothers that made up the Black Panther Party, at least in New York City, and the Black Liberation Army, they came out of the Muslim Mosque, Inc. Some came from the Nation as Children, and they came out into building the Black Panther Party. Those were the cubs of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. A lot of people don't know the history, so they don't understand the connections. But one of the things that I think history has made clear is that we cannot build a nation together in another man's nation. And we see the Chinese are in America, but wherever the Chinese are, they're under their sovereign jurisdiction. They have Chinatowns as the headquarters of that sovereignty. Even when they don't live in Chinatown, their allegiance is to that sovereign community that is economically, politically, and solvently theirs, and then that is connected to their fatherland or motherland. And we find that with all other non-European groups in America. The East Indian community had sovereign Indian communities that is connected back to India, though they're right here in the United States of America. So the messenger made it plain to us that we have to get control of the economics, of the politics, and of the culture where we live. And Malcolm added a term to that, by any means necessary, which he learned in his teaching from the messenger. We have to learn to control, again, land, labor, and resources wherever we find ourselves. And I know Sister laid out the 4 points, but Sister, I tried to lay out 10 points on sovereignty, and I'm going to raise those 10. And if we are talking about sovereignty, we need to really understand, as we study history and we study culture, we study the history of both our enemies and our ancestors. You must know both. You must master both. So that we can understand, to be sovereign, we must have a self-governing state. To be sovereign, we need to have a permanent population. We must know our people and their number, and we must bring that population together on a defined piece of land, a defined territory. I mean, one of the books that everybody should still read today is Message to the Black Man. This is really the blueprint. And if you go to page 222 and to 224, the messenger speaks very clearly on this separation and the many multiple steps we must go through to qualify. The minister laid out a good bit of that training that's necessary to raise consciousness. But once we realize we have to have this permanent population, and we know we have them, we're nearly 60 million in the United States now. And when we talk about the Afro-Descended Nation, we're talking about close to 100 million plus in the Western Hemisphere, not even counting the billions on the continent of Africa. And so we are talking about having a defined territory, even if that defined territory is not contiguous in the beginning, meaning we may be in South Carolina, we may be in Mississippi, we may be in Arkansas, but our numbers are such that we can control the economic, politics, and culture where we live and have a relationship to the other territories where we were doing the same thing, operating under the concept of the independence that one must have. You must be independent of any other foreign body determining how you're determining or self-determining. So the number 5 would be we must have internal authority. And then 6, we must have external capacity to engage with other nations in treaties and trade. Number 7, we want to make our own laws that govern our people. Number 8, we must be able to protect our people from aggression from others. And we're seeing that all over the country, the aggression of murdering us and hanging us and using the police department as death squad against us have never stopped since the Civil War. And it goes on every day in our communities across the country, except now they call it law and order. And so number 9, we want to protect the human rights of our people when we become the governing instrument for our people. And we want to be bound by international law and international obligations. And then we come back to what the messenger was trying to make clear to us, that you must know yourself, know thyself. And he speaks of this heavily in Message to the Black Man. Not only know thyself, you must love thyself. And you can only begin to love thyself if you know thyself. Because you can't build a nation with backwards, ignorance people who are self-destructive. You cannot build a nation with people who have a greater love for the enemy than they have for their ancestry. And that's why history becomes so important and so essential. And I think the messenger, thank God for him, have laid this thing out in the literature that he's left us. Even when we understand that when we talk about economic politics and culture, we must talk about sacred science. In this instance, the sacred science institution, we refer to it as Islam. We know that about 40% of us came to this country during that enslavement process were already Muslims before we left Africa. The Songhai Empire, the Mali Empire, those great empires were conquered. The Moorish Empire that was conquered in Spain, and those people were brought and sold into the Americas. Now, there's been this myth that, oh, we forgot everything, we lost it. No, we didn't. We had to get clandestine. We had to go underground. We had to teach in all kinds of other secret ways, but we kept much of our system in fragments and pieces in our lives. That's why when we went through that Civil War, at least they'll admit to something like about 4,000 to 5,000 of us fought in the blue uniform, but we had more than that fighting behind the lines, sabotaging the Confederacy. If it wasn't for our involvement in their Civil War, the North would have never won it. We could really look at that as one of the wars of liberation process that we went through because of our contribution in the victory that was handed to the North. But that's not enough. If we don't establish a homeland for ourselves, then we will forever be slaves in someone else's homeland, and they're not going to allow us to run their homeland. We've been trying that for decades. It hasn't worked. We've been governors, we've been mayors, we've been city council persons, we've even been the presidents of the United States of America. But one thing that has been made very clear, this is a nation that the Europeans came over deliberately to build for Europeans. And as the brother minister was laying out, as long as we are an asset, a labor asset to them, we're safe. But this thing we see around immigration, they long since replaced us as a large segment of the labor force. We've been replaced as the primary working class labor force in this country for more than 30 years now. And our male population have been tracked off to prison intergenerationally. And so someone whose father and grandfather was in prison is in that track from classroom to the prison, that they've set up using drugs and law enforcement to manage the drugs that come into our community so they can monitor us breaking their civil laws so that they can incarcerate us and be covered by the 13th Amendment that we're not really free. They have the right by their law to put us back into slavery. And so the only way, and I've been all over this world, I've been all over the continent, the Caribbean, all through the United States in these 80 years that I've been on the planet. And the one thing that has been very clear, we must build a place for ourselves, a sovereign piece of territory that we govern by the principle, laws, concepts, and ideas that is humane for us. And we must be able to protect the integrity of those institutions that we establish. And so the great separation may sound to some like, oh, that don't sound and make sense. Study history. I say all the time, history will erase the mystery. If you study the historical relationship between us and the European community, both here and abroad, the story is the same, that they will not allow us to live as sovereign citizens in any state that they've established in Europe or the Americas. And so we have one choice if we want to truly be free. and that is to come together as a people, establish territory for ourselves, establish all of the pieces of a sovereign state that's necessary for people to govern and protect themselves. And we can start where we are by taking over the land and the labor and the resource in these communities we live in East St. Louis, where we're 90-something% of the population, and we have somebody 10% running the economy. Or we go down to Maryland, where we have communities, cities that's 90-something% Black people, but they have no sovereignty, and they're some of the wealthiest in the country. Or we come to New York, where we have millions and millions of Black people, and we still operate like that plantation I grew up on in South Carolina. If we're going to have freedom and be in charge of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for our people, we must look in terms of sovereignty. We must be in terms of understanding that separation may have many kinds of technical construct as we move towards the greater sovereignty and a greater contiguous land for ourselves, probably not in my lifetime, but in the lifetime of my children and grandchildren. So our great message again, happy birthday. Thank you for the opportunity for me to even speak on your behalf and let you speak through me as you will speak through others. Salam alaikum. As-salam.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for enlightening us about fully all of the steps that need to take place in order to build a sovereign nation of our own. Thank you so much. That was, as Minister Naji Mansour just said, flawless. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring on the next speaker, who is the president of the Afro-Descended Nation. He is a visionary educator and global leader who is dedicated to advancing freedom, justice, and self-determination for Afro-descendants. With over 2 decades of experience in education and leadership, Dr. Mukaram has been instrumental in promoting Afro-descendant identity, unity, and nation building through national and international advocacy. Her leadership continues to inspire collective progress and global recognition for Afro-descendants. So please join me in welcoming Madam President, Dr. Akilah Mukaram.
Thank you, Dr. Tahita. Assalamu alaikum and greetings, everyone. Greetings to our speakers, our panelists, and the viewing audience. And happy Greater Mother's Day, and a special happy birthday to Princess Amira Muhammad, born on this great day of the messenger's birthday as well. So we want to show her some love in the chat. It is her birthday, so thank you very much for helping me show her some love in the chat. So today we gather to honor a great visionary, a great builder, a great awakener, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whose life works and wisdom gave us a blueprint for freedom that still calls to us today. We are here to remember, continue, and implement the great works he did in building nationhood. He showed us how we could be a nation of self-determined people. We had farmlands, grocery stores, clothing factories, a bank, a plane, and so much more. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings are for every generation of people who are determined to rise. He saw what many of us could not see yet, that we are not a problem to be managed. We are a nation to be restored. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad declared, do for self. He told us that over and over again, do for self. These words were just not a command, they were prophecy. We are here now to bring that prophecy to fruition. Do for self and live free with dignity, wealth, and prosperity for generations to come. He taught us to feed ourselves, educate ourselves, protect ourselves, and govern ourselves. He knew that no people could ever be free while depending on those who enslaved them. He showed us that freedom was not a dream, it was a plan rooted in divine wisdom, discipline, and self-knowledge. He reminded us that we had once been a mighty people, builders of civilizations, masters of science and art, before the chains, before the slave ships, before centuries of dehumanization. Chattel enslaved ancestors were stripped to nothingness. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad dared to say, we could be mighty again. If only we would unite and do for self. So here we stand, generations later, carrying both the scars and the strength of our ancestors. We are the descendants of those who endured chattel enslavement, who built the economies of other nations, yet we own nothing of our own as a people. Today, we rise as a new people, as Afro descendants, the living continuation of African people who suffered chattel enslavement in the Americas and across the world. Our identity, Afro-Descendant, is our great unifier. It transcends religion. It transcends geography. It transcends all the divisions that were engineered to keep us apart. Whether you pray in the mosque, whether you pray in the church or a temple, or in the quiet of your mind, you are Afro-descendant. Your blood carries the same rhythm of resilience that mine carries. We are one people, we're scattered. Some of our people say that they don't agree with the term Afro-descendant because we are not an Afro people. But let's look at it. We've been named nigger, Negro, colored, Black, Afro-American, African-American, and now people of African descent. But people of African descent, it includes everyone. It includes migrants, immigrants who chose their path to move from one country to another. But our ancestors did not choose. They were stolen, kidnapped, trafficked, and enslaved. So when the world says people of African descent, our distinction and our claim to comprehensive reparations becomes blurred. My husband once told me that a white woman he worked with said that she was more African American than he was because she was born in Africa and now live in America. Do you see that confusion? We don't want that to happen. So we are Afro descendants. We must be clear and have clarity today. Afro descendant distinguishes us from all others. We are people of African descent, a distinct people of African descent. The Honorable Salis Muhammad and his wife, Queen Mashaki Muhammad, at a UN-sponsored conference where representatives from 19 countries agreed on our collective identity of Afro-descendant. He and his wife wrote the definition and shared it at that conference. Look at that brilliance to understand that our identity needed to be defined, that it must be defined so that it can be defended. The term Afro-descendants refers to descendants of peoples who were forcibly dispossessed of their homeland, Africa, were transported to the Americas and the slavery diaspora for the purpose of enslavement, were subjected to slavery, were subjected to forced mixed breeding and rape, have experienced through force the loss of mother tongue, culture, and religion, and or have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties or partially lost ties to their original identity. Power in the definition, power in the name, the identity, the new identity, Afro-descendant. So I ask, what other people have had to change names so many times? So I say get over it. If you don't like Afro-descendant, just get over it for the greater good of our people so that we can be one people united. Over 250 million worldwide. Our liberation requires clarity. Afro-descendant is who we are.
2 minutes.
Thank you. So, as Afro-descendants, we are stateless, without a land or a country. Therefore, when we demand comprehensive reparations, it must include land for our nation to sit up on. Since it is our greater Mother's Day, I would like to quote the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in saying, and what he taught us, is that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. So when our women rise, our men rise, our children rise, our nation rises. Our identity gives us something no government, no empire, or no system can define for us. Our own name, our own narrative, our own nationhood. And we are unstoppable when we are united. Thank you.
Thank you. And is Minister Ajani with you, or does he have a separate computer?
He's right here.
He's right there. So you're just going to change seats, huh?
I'm going to change seats. Let me go off camera for just a sec while we change. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, let me introduce him while you switch over.
Okay.
Ajani Mukaram is Governor General of the Afro-Descended Nation and has been a key figure in advancing human rights and reparations alongside the Honorable Silas Muhammad. And he's a seasoned representative at the UN-sponsored forums across the Americas, and he has played a vital role in shaping the government of the Afro-Descended Nation, serving as senator first, and then as first president, now Governor General. So he's dedicated to promoting self-governments and global recognition of Afro-descendants, and he continues to lecture nationally and internationally. He is also the devoted husband of Madam President, and they're celebrating 35 years of marriage now. So please join me in welcoming our first gentleman, Ajani Mukaram.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tahita. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings to all. And thank you for having me on this great day, the celebration of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday. And my way of celebrating his birthday is to have just a chat with you about the historical perspective of the Afro-Descended Nation. Again, greetings. My name is Ajani Mukaram. I'm the Governor General. I came into the Lost Found Nation of Islam, and 1990 it was that I came into the Lost Found Nation of Islam. There, as a student in Tuskegee University, my wife and I would travel back and forth from Tuskegee to Atlanta, going through orientation, and eventually submitting a written letter and becoming members of the Lost Found Nation of Islam. And when I came into the Nation of Islam, I would often hear that we weren't just a religion of Islam. And thus, the reason the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called it the Lost Found Nation of Islam. He was trying to instill in our mind at that time nationhood, and that we should be able to govern ourselves, and that we should govern ourselves. And he said that we use the religion of Islam to get to our people, but we were really trying to bring them into a nation. So it's 35 years ago that I came here. My, how times flies. I may need to use my glasses just to follow my notes. So I came into the nation, and eventually I was raised to the position of minister. And I went on later to become the chief minister of the ministers. And we would have these ministerial meetings. And there is a very special date as we walk this historical path that I want you to remember. It was August of 1998 that I called a ministers, at the time we were calling ourselves the Ministers Directorate. I called the ministers to Miami, Florida, and I had the good sense to invite the Honorable Silus Muhammad to attend the session. He said he gladly accepted the invitation. He said that he had something special planned for us at our meeting. I went on to let the other ministers know that we would be meeting in Miami, August of 1998, and that the Honorable Silus Muhammad would be attending. When we got there to the meeting room that morning, he began to question us. And although we said we understood that we were a nation and that we were working toward nationhood, a few of the questions he asked us kind of differed. It was a couple of questions about, if I were to assemble you, ministers, in a meeting room, and I took you out of your spiritual roles, and I put you into a secular setting such that we could further move the nation forward, what should you be called? And we came up with the lords of this, and we would be the some of us still said ministers, some said the Lord, some said, he said, well, what if I put you into a structure where you had to legislate and you would make laws? What would you be called? Again, we went around what we would call the body, the circle of the men of all kinds of names. I can't remember them all. And I guess he shook his head to say, my goodness, who writes laws? He said, if you looked at America and you looked at the highest body in America that does legislation, what are they called? And finally, one of the brothers or one of the sisters, ministers, I don't know who, said senators. And he said, good, yes. Today, August of 1998, I don't know the exact date right off, but we have that in our history. You members of the ministers directorate will no longer be called the ministers directorate when you sit in this body to establish laws, righteous laws for our nation that's budding forth from you. You will be called senators. And I wore that name proudly. And today I'm really excited to say historically, I was one of the first senators of the Afro-Descended Nation. At the time, we were doing work in the United Nations. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder of my brother, Governor General Ishmael Abdul Salam, who's going to talk internationally. But let me just touch briefly on what occurred. In 1998, the Honorable Silus Muhammad, his wife, Queen Mashaki Muhammad, and Ida Hakim were traveling forth to Geneva, Switzerland, and the United Nations. And inside of traveling, they were giving interventions on behalf of Black people in America and throughout the slavery diaspora. In fact, those sub-commissioners in the international world were kind of tutoring us, tutoring the Honorable Salis Muhammad, tutoring Queen Mashaki Muhammad, Ida Hakim, and those others of us who traveled. But his big premise were, as the president says, that we were lost and we needed an identity to be reconnected to the human family because we had been deracinated by slavery. And so he asked them, the United Nations, to put forth regional seminars for those of us in the slavery diaspora, North America, South America, Caribbean islands, Central America. And they did. And I attended several of those regional seminars, one in Quito, Ecuador, one in Santiago, Chile, one in Montreal, Canada, another in it started in Lima, Peru, but eventually went to Chincha, Peru. Um, but in these regional seminars, we were gathering, the United Nations under their umbrella were gathering descendants from slaves throughout the slavery diaspora. And initially, I was told by the Honorable Salis Muhammad, since we were lost and we were found, that we could possibly identify as lost, found people.
2 minutes.
Well, you can imagine how that went over. It went over like a ton of bricks. But after he set us up in the Senate, the Honorable Salis Muhammad would later set the sister captains up as a branch of the House of Representatives. He would set the brother captains up as the other part of the House of Representatives. And he set us in gates, East Gate and West Gate. And the chairperson sat in the West Gate because the slaves were sitting in the West, and he said that the power of our Black people was rising from the West. He had gotten this information from the Honorable Salis Muhammad. Later, he would take those who studied law classes in the Lost Foundation of Islam or went to law school as the Supreme Court justices. So we had a House of Representatives, we had the Senate, we had Supreme Court, and then later, as you see today, we have a president. But when he accepted the name Afro-Descendant, which I learned most of the folks in the slavery diaspora, our people were using the term Afro-Descendant. As the president said, he eventually gave definition to that name. And we, members of the Lost Found Nation of Islam, took the Lost Found Nation of Islam as a member of the Afro Descended Nation. So I am a Lost Found Nation of Islam member, but I'm an Afro Descendant citizen. And your government, the Afro Descended Nation, was established August of 1998. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience with me. Assalamu alaikum. Love my Black people.
Walaikum salam, sir. Thank you for that background information on how the Honorable Salis Muhammad first developed our government. And so that was very informative because a lot of us don't know that history. So thank you so much. All right, so our next speaker is Governor General Ishmael. I just asked him to turn his camera on.
Assalamu alaikum. It should on.
Okay.
All right.
All right, 1 minute. Let me just find you. My view is okay. Okay, I see you. Thank you. Okay, there you are. All right, so let me just do a quick introduction. Ishmael Abdul Salam is the CEO of All for Reparations and Emancipation, and he has been a leading advocate for Afro-Descendant rights and reparations since 1992. Beginning his work in Philadelphia with the National Commission for Reparations, he later advanced to international advocacy, representing Afro-descendants at the United Nations, the Millennium Forum in New York, and the Working Group on Minorities in Geneva, way back when. So he's now our lead at the UN again, at the Permanent Forum of People of African Descent as well. And he is a co-author of A Regional Perspective on Afro-Descendant Quality of Life. And he continues to champion global recognition and self-determination for Afro-descendants on an international level. So join me in welcoming Brother Ishmael Abdul Salam, Minister. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, let me extend a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and women of the Lost Foundation of Islam. It is in recognition of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that we recognize the women of our nation, because he gave birth to a nation as though a woman gives birth to a child. We recognize that divinity of our women in our nation, and giving them that recognition this day is properly fitting. It's rather late, and I want to take my time, but I've got some pieces to give, and I know that it's not enough time to give a detail of an international perspective on the topics of basically what we must do during this time and around the discussion of the great separation that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad discussed. But being that we've been in the UN and typically they only give us 2 minutes to speak. I'm grateful for this moment where I get 5 to 10 minutes to speak and share with you information that will help us answer the question that has been presented to us this evening. Why the United Nations? I'll start that. Why the international arena for Afro descendants? Being that it is the messenger's birthday, I'll start with one of his pieces. And he says, "It is true that the history of our treatment by the devil slave master practically made our parents and ourselves less than human beings. This is why I teach that the main rights we should seek first are human rights." That's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who wrote that in one of his books. Human rights, the whole construct of human rights is centered around international law. The infrastructure for human rights is established in the United Nations. There is no human rights framework in the United States. And even if there was a human rights framework, even though that the United Nations headquarters is in New York, there is no aligned human rights law along with civil law here in the United States that respects Afro descendants or recognizes Afro descendants. Thus, it's very, very important that we advocate our identity and our recognition inside of the United Nations. Another piece that I want to give in this discussion, because we're talking about unity and when, how, why, those questions, those critical questions. I'll go back to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again before I go inside the UN, when he discusses again, and I used to be, I'm still a minister, but I used to teach more regularly. And this is something from a teaching or that I had given in the mosque in 2012. But it says the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and our Savior has arrived, page 82. The days of Allah mean years of Allah, and not a 24-hour day. It means years. These days are years of judgment according to the Bible and the Holy Quran will not run over 20 years. And according to the scientists of Islam, the teaching of the Holy Quran, which are to be understood, the judgment is to take place between 1380 and 1400 years after the death of Prophet Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. Now, if we are to conclude that Prophet Muhammad passed away in June of 632 AD, and 1300 years following his death would put us around June 2012. And we know of the significant gains and growth of the nation, the Afro-Descended Nation, at around 2012. But the messenger also concludes that the judgment will not run past 20 years. So if we add 20 years from 2012, that puts us around 2032, according to what the messenger has put. That's basically 7 years from now. And I don't want to, say this in a way to cause any false urgency, but I do want to cause some urgency, because it's not a question now whether should we separate. It's also a question, should we analyze that others want to separate from us, and what should we do? And you can purely see that throughout the world, and even right here in America where we reside. There's a great separation that exists that does not include our people, and thus is prudent for us to consider our own movements as this discussion or as these things take place. So I add this to the discussion as a form of strategy, because time dictates the agenda. Without having a time or focus to work within our movements, we just become open-ended, and thus we become victims to those who do plan. And what we want to do is counter that by having our own plans for self-determination. The Honorable Silus Muhammad put out years ago when we first went to the UN is, where do we fit? And he asked that question to the working group of minorities. And they had difficulty in answering that question, where do we fit? And that's important when it comes to recognition. Are we minorities? Are we indigenous people? Where do we fit? It was in 2001 that the Honorable Silus Muhammad and Queen Mashaki Muhammad in South Africa urged the United Nations to establish a forum where we can establish ourselves, connect with other Black people, other Afro-descendants throughout the diaspora, connect with our brothers and sisters in Africa, and find a place where we can establish our identity. While we did call for and did self-identify as Afro-descendants, what was chosen as a form was the permanent form on people of African descent who do recognize Afro-descendants. However, we recognize that our issues are not primary in that form. However, we do recognize it as a place to work and to exercise our issues before the world community.
2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I knew I would run out of time, but if you would put this in the chat for me, someone, there's a report of the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, 4th session, 60th session, dated September 8th, October 3rd, 2025. This is a report that the Permanent Forum just submitted to the General Assembly. I will conclude on this point on page 3. That the report states that member states should establish a global framework for reparatory justice for people of African descent, grounded in international human rights law and guided by the International Covenant on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination and the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, among others. It reiterates its earlier recommendation of the creation of a global reparations fund, which should incorporate mechanisms for restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, and guarantees the non-repatriation and the centers and will and needs of people of African descent. It should integrate reparatory justice, reparations, with the intersectional approach into national development strategies, including education, land rights, public health, eliminate resilience, and economic empowerment. I conclude that our central interest or issue to rally around for our people is reparations. That is the lead that we as Afro-descendants established in the UN, and that is what made the president of Ghana in his address at the General Assembly want to declare the transatlantic slave trade a greater crime, as the greatest crime against humanity, and Africa is moving forward to establish a global reparations fund. And it is Ghana that wants to make the first motion inside the General Assembly, as well as 2026 is the 25th anniversary of the World Conference Against Racism, the Durban Declaration. And will be much happening on the continent to support reparations. I wish I can continue on, but I got to stop. Thank you for your time. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for that very helpful information. And we must understand that it's still necessary for us to go to the UN, and you're doing an excellent job. So we thank you for your hard work and your dedication to our mission.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to have Attorney Malik come on if he is there. Let's see, I'm going to change the view here. Attorney Malik, are you there? Okay. Attorney Malik has a guest on that we would like to hear from for just a few minutes. If he's available, Brother Imam Akbar from the Black Panther movement, Ambassador Sheikh Imam Akbar. Can you turn your camera on and unmute your mic? Would you like to add to the conversation while we're waiting for Attorney Malik? Okay. All right. So while we're waiting, why don't we take some comments and questions from the audience on anything that
Okay, I'm
we...
right here with you, ma'am. It's just, I don't know,
Okay.
something may have been,
Oh, you
we,
just have to turn your video on for me to ping you.
okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Just a second.
sure.
We are prepared for the attorney to come up, so we gotta go and make an adjustment right quick, and we'll be right on. You can give me a few seconds, and we'll be right to the mic. We
Okay.
appreciate everything that you're doing, and the Honorable Salis Muhammad, the nation. There's something called in El Quran called Ummatul El Mizan, is a balanced nation will rise. It says to let there rise out of you a justly balanced ummah or a justly balanced nation. And we can see in the works of the Honorable Salis Muhammad, the work of a justly balanced nation rising up. From the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the most dignified man we have known in America, and the most respected man, and the most self-determination. They talk about a principle of self-determination. And I believe the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is an excellent example of self-determination. He teaches on the nation of self. The Ummah in Al-Quran is Ummatul El-Mizan, and that Ummah is that community that rises up. But it forbids you doing wrong. It invites you to do right and forbids what is wrong. And that we have raised the Dr. and Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, one of the representatives of the judicial side of the society, and doing an excellent job as a student leader and one who has been skillful and effective in bringing attention to teaching Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the teachings of the Honorable Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who both were students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and later saw the teachings of Silus. And I grew up in the Nation of Islam from 1970 to this hour. I was a feud of Islam and a baker. The Muhammad Speaks newspaper, I lived on the Muhammad Speaks newspaper for a few years before getting my first job with the Nation of Islam in the bakery at 79th Vernon, Chicago. And we baked a bean pie and a 100% staff of life bread. And that bread was distributed to all markets, including the jewel markets, back in the early 70s. And we took the money, and eventually I just found out from the most honorable Salis Muhammad that it was his wife was the mystery sister who had started the bank, the Guarantee Trust Bank. We would take the money from the Muhammad Speaks newspaper sales and took the money from the Shabazz bakery and your clothing store and your supermarket and the Salam restaurant. And what was collected from the farm money was all brought to the Guarantee Trust and Bank to have our own Nation of Islam to manage a bank for self. And it felt good. That nationhood was good to see your freedom of the press, your newspaper, Muhammad Speaks newspaper on the front line, and to see the product that we have produced from our own inertia, from our own nationhood, brotherhood, and sisterhood from our own justly balanced nation, inviting to all that is good, forbidding all that is wrong, and there came a justly balanced community or nation as has been promised and written and prophesied in the Holy Quran, in the Bible, and other books. There's a prophecy of Elijah. Before the awful and dreadful day of the Lord, I will bring you and send you Elijah, and he will teach you into the knowledge of all truth. And he teaches the truth, and know ye the truth, that the truth shall make you free. And he taught on the Ezekiel in the sands of the desert, in the burning sands of the desert. But not only that, he taught that he raised exceedingly a great army came out of Ezekiel from the valley of the dead dry bones, and he brought those teachings, prophesied on those bones, commanded those bones to speak according to the prophecy, the scripture, and all revelation says that Ezekiel caused the bones to speak. Once he saw one bone move towards the other bone, he prophesied even harder to raise a great army that not only checked the Pharaoh of that hour, but it defeated the Pharaoh of that hour. And the philosophy of Nation of Islam is a defeatist to all known socialism, politics, and spiritualism. The Nation of Islam has the greatest philosophy, the greatest self-determination, and the greatest example of excellence in moral conduct, in spiritual development, and the highest development of scholarship that anyone can ever see on the planet Earth. The Nation of Islam, by the teaching of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is a great nation, inviting to all that is good and forbidding what is wrong. We wish you could have had time to got the camera on, but is Dr. and Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, is he ready to come to the mic? He is a great orator as well as a great attorney, and he represents the people, a great freedom fighter. Is in Dr. and Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, who's come to this Afro-Descended Nation for the continuity of the work of the Honorable Silus Muhammad and his great Queen Mother, and those that have decided to associate themselves in the nation, the lost found Nation of Islam, under the direction and the leadership and the guidance of the most Honorable Silus Muhammad. So if he's ready to come forward, we will present to you the Honorable Dr. and Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, a nation builder himself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And power to we the people.
Wa alaikum salam. That was an excellent introduction, so I won't need to do that. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
input and for your presence. We appreciate you so much. So, Attorney Malik, are you there? Can you turn your mic on? There you
Maybe
are.
having a little trouble with the mic.
1 second. Where am I? I'm trying to get this thing straight here.
Okay.
I don't know if my camera.
Yeah, it says your camera is off.
There's something going on with this camera here. Give me a minute. I'm gonna check in on my cell phone. Just keep
Okay.
it warm in the name of Elijah Muhammad. I'm gonna switch to my cell and I'm coming right on.
Yes, sir. So in the meantime, just to check in, it is 9:37. We do want to
Play
end.
him again, right? Before as I switch over, let's hear from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again. Put that video back on so
Okay.
we can get the spirit right, and I'm coming right back on.
Okay. I can do that, I believe. And then we do have one other speaker, which is Vice President Kamal Muhammad, but he's going to wrap us up at the end. So we wanted to give him 5 minutes at the end. So let's kind of, I think rather than playing the video right now, if anyone has any questions or comments, because of time is so short, would you just raise your hand and maybe we could address a few comments or questions before Attorney Malik comes back? Yes, sir. Mr. Harold Hunter, please unmute your mic. I'll go to gallery view here. Okay, we can hear you. I see you, your picture. Okay, we can't hear you. Okay, go ahead and speak. Still can't hear. Nope. Try and get your mic on because we can't hear a word that you're saying. Just hold for a minute and you want to try it now? Nope, still not working. Anyone else? You can just raise your hand or we can address some comments. Okay. I guess I will go ahead and play the video. 1 minute. And pull it back up.
Just a quick moment.
Oh, okay.
I can
Yes.
go ahead
You
instead
want
of,
to go?
we only
Well,
got
thank you.
20 minutes.
You're right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and add you to the screen. Can you turn your camera on? So Vice President Kamal Muhammad is part of the family. He is the vice president under the direction of Dr. Akilah Mukaram and has served for many, many years. So I'll let him just take it over and introduce himself because I'm sure I'm not doing you any justice. So you go right ahead.
You said my camera is on.
Yes, it is. And we can see you and hear you.
You see and hear me?
Yes.
See myself. Okay. Greetings, everyone. I hope everyone has had a full evening. My name is Kamal Muhammad. My wife is Amira Muhammad. I've been in the nation for about 40 years myself. And also I am a graduate of Florida A&M University, and I've attained a degree in pharmacy. And I am extremely passionate about our identity. So I hope this can get over in 5 minutes, but it's a like call to action and an attempt to grow our identity and our name. And I want you all to embrace it and to accept it. Again, it's not an eraser. It is our new name that we are giving ourselves. So the messenger said, a good name is better than gold. Those were the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they remind us of our power and of our identity. For generations, we have carried names that were never ours, names forced on us by those who enslaved us, names meant to erase us: Black, Negro, Colored, African American. These names were not chosen by us. They were imposed on us. They symbolize bondage. They symbolize slavery. But today, we declare a new name, a name that honors our history, a name that lifts our pride, a name that unites us. That name is Afro-Descendants. And Afro-Descendant are descendants of chattel slavery who were forcibly dispossessed of their homeland, Africa, were transported to the Americas and diaspora for the purpose of enslavement, were subjected to slavery, were subjected to forced mixed breeding and rape, having experienced through force the loss of mother's tongue, culture, and religion, have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties and partial lost ties to our original identity. I ask, what does it mean to be free? For us, the descendants of chattel slavery, freedom begins here. Freedom begins with reclaiming our name, our dignity, our unity. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, A good name is better than gold. So today I say, let us throw away the names of slavery and claim the name that honors us all, Afro Descendants. This name is not just a label, it's a declaration of freedom, a declaration of strength, a declaration of unity. It affirms our culture, it affirms our heritage, it affirms our dignity and our pride. When we reclaim who we are, we reclaim our rightful place in the world. Empowerment begins at home. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, many say we should help the nations of Africa, which are awakening. But what part of America do you own? Who is truly independent? The nations of Africa or we? Those are the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Before we reach out to others, we must first build ourselves. Before we send help abroad, we must strengthen home. Self-empowerment begins with us, with knowledge, with resources, with unity, self-knowledge, self-respect, self-determination, and then we can stand proudly. Only then we can offer help from a position of true power. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid the foundation for spiritual and cultural awakening. The Honorable Silus Muhammad carried the fight to the global stage. He helped secure the recognition of the name Afro-Descendant, a name that unites us across the world. All descendants of chattel slavery, together through legacy, their legacy gives us power. Power to demand justice, power to demand equality, power to demand reparation on our terms. Afro-Descendant is our new name. Better than gold. It is the key to our unity, the key to our dignity, the key to our power. So let us embrace the name, not just as word, but as a weapon, a declaration that breaks the chains of the past, as a foundation for a future filled with pride, unity, and justice. Together as Afro-Descendant people, we reclaim our identity, we reclaim our place, we reclaim our power. So, come off and open up your faces and say with me, I am an Afro-Descendant. That's the name. Better than gold.
I am an Afro-Descendant.
Thank you, ma'am. Say it again. I am an Afro-Descendant.
I am an
I
Afro-Descendant.
am an Afro-Descendant.
I am
Now,
an Afro-Descendant.
let me leave with this story. Thank you all.
I am.
A story is told of three men who reached the gates of heaven. A man, a white man, a Mexican man, and a black man. All were told to ask God a question. If God was answered, he could answer. If God could not answer the question, the reward was entrance into heaven. If not, the destination is hell. The white man, who always wants to be first, whispered to God, who discovered America. God replied, Christopher Columbus. And down to hell with the white man. Next, the Mexican man, he asked, what does Cinco de Mayo means? God chuckled. The 5th of May, down to hell went the Mexican man. Finally, the black man stepped forward. His heart was heavy, but his spirit was hopeful. He asked the Lord, when will black people unite? The laughter stopped. Heaven grew silent. God looked down, smiled gently, and he said to the black man, come on in. The gates of heaven open. Brothers and sisters, that question still echoes today. Will we unite? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us the answer in Message to the Black Man. He talked about unity and identity as it relates to the descendants of chattel slavery. That's 250 descendants. When we are ready, when we cast off division, envy, and fear, when we stop begging and start building together, when we know who we are, Afro descendants, one people, one destiny. Our unity is our salvation, our name is our key, and the time is now. Afro descendants are, that's our good name. It's better than gold. So help me get the word out there on your social media posts, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. Tell your family and friends to post hashtag I am Afro Descendants. Also, you can post from descendants of chattel slavery to Afro descendants. Unity is our identity. Strength is our name. Again, from the descendants of chattel slavery to Afro descendants. Unity is our identity. Strength is our name. And thank you all for the opportunity. I am Afro Descendant.
I am Afro Descendant. Thank you so much. We have Attorney Malik is ready now, and he needs no further introduction. So I'm just going to turn it over to the conductor of the reparations movement of the Afro Descended Nation and founder of Black Lawyers for Justice, Attorney Malik. Please help me welcome Attorney Malik now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get right down to business. I know time is running. Will it cut off automatically at 10 o'clock?
No, it won't.
Okay, I'm still going to be right to the point because the hour is late. Giving honor to God, the God of our forefathers. I bear witness that regardless to land, label, or language, that there is but one God. And in the name of that God who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, who came seeking to save the lost found black man and woman of North America, we thank God for raising up in our midst a divine leader, a divine teacher, and a divine guide in the person of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we are here on this day, October the 7th, to give credit to whom I consider one of the greatest black men ever born. In fact, there is no black man greater born than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Okay, I won't say he's the greatest of every other black man or black leader that ever came, but I will say that there's none greater that has ever come and has ever been born than that little black man from Sandersville, Georgia, born on October 7th, 1897, and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I met a doctor once here in Southeast Washington, D.C. I was riding with a doctor, an older doctor. He told me directly, it wasn't but maybe 10 years ago, he said the greatest leader that has ever come amongst us, He said the most effective leader to ever come amongst us was and is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he was not a Muslim, and he was not in the Nation of Islam, and he went on to teach me about the many great things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did for individuals, for psychiatric patients, for drug addicts, and how he put our people to work and stood our people up, and he made it clear to what I hold to today that there's been no more effective leader. Now, there might have been leaders here, we honor them all, that articulated better, that they sound better, they may write it better, they may look fancier, but they are not greater or nor more effective than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was here, we had the sign that we would achieve freedom, justice, equality in a short while. A nation with airplanes, a nation with ships on the high seas, a nation with black money and black banks and black employees and black apartment buildings and black factories and everybody doing for self. I knew nothing about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad until I knew from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from a child, actually. I was introduced to the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a child by my grandfather, Thomas X of the Nation of Islam in Los Angeles, California. Later named by Imam Warth Deen Muhammad, he was named Malik El Amin Najila until he joined back up with the Nation of Islam under Louis Farrakhan in the early 1980s. But in the early 1970s, around 1973 and 1974, I was blessed as a child, as a baby, to attend the mosque number 27 in Los Angeles, California. And I was blessed to attend big black Muslim bazaars with black vendors and black business people. And I attended at the Shrine Auditorium, black Muslim bazaars where Muhammad Ali would appear, and there were thousands there. And in that time, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had his people in the spirit of business, in the spirit of economics, in the strong spirit of doing for self by any means necessary. And so my grandfather, Thomas X, all the way up until he passed, in those days and in later days, he was always about his business. He didn't have a college degree. He didn't have necessary qualifications, but he believed in Fard and Elijah, and he kept his black briefcase open, and he was rolling in his Mercedes Benz and living in Ladera Heights, in the hills of Baldwin Hills as a follower of Elijah Muhammad. He owned several blocks of real estate in Los Angeles, California. Had him some nice houses that he would get on foreclosure in the hills, uneducated formally. But he was a true believer in Fard and Elijah. And so later on, after the Nation of Islam fell and I had no contact with my grandfather, I come back to experience the Nation of Islam in the mid-1980s as a young freshman in college at Howard University. I linked back up with my grandfather after all those years. And in that time, I bear witness that it was the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that came to me, but I have to be honest to you. They came to me through Minister Louis Farrakhan and Dr. Khalid Muhammad. And through those teachings and through my relationship with those men, that helped to turn my life around and is a key part of the influence that I'm able to have today, and is the greatest thing that ever happened in my life, honestly, is to get those teachings and to get that experience from Dr. Khalid Muhammad and his teacher, Louis Farrakhan, as a young college student. He gave me the lessons that Master Farad Muhammad gave the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the first two lessons in that black lesson book made it clear. Simple yet rudimentary, but he made it clear. He asked us the question, who is the original man? And he gave the answer. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. I knew who I was right then. He asked a second question, who is the colored man? He says the colored man is the Caucasian, so-called white man, Yakub's grafted devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. Two of the greatest teachings that have ever been introduced to any man, anywhere, at any time, telling the black man that he is divine and telling us that the nature of our enemy is the devil. He teaches that the white man is not just a devil, but the white man is the devil, and that is the clearest teaching that have opened my eyes to imperialism, colonialism, slavery, Zionism, and every other crime that the white man has been committed. Throughout my career, my enemies have said that Malik Zulu Shabazz is problematic because he teaches the inherent evil of white people. And all I'm doing is sticking fast and holding fast to that which I believe in, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Look, I'm going to proceed on and close out here. But I want to tell you this. We can't narrow down the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We can't pigeonhole him or make him smaller than what he is. The Bible says that if I touch the hem of his garment, talking in the New Testament, if I touch the hem of his garment, then I will be made whole. That was the people in that land of Palestine talking to the black Jesus of that day. Well, same can be said true of the messenger to the black man, that if you just touch the hem, the H-E-M, if you just get a part of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you are going to elevate, you are going to rise, you can be made whole. Whether it's the dietary part of it. I mean, how many will raise their hand and say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught them how to eat to live? Got them off the hog, got them off the swine, got them off the mud, got them looking lean and mean, got them eating the right foods and not eating the wrong foods. Who here will testify that Elijah Muhammad has increased their years in life and gave them life and life more abundantly? It's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Or whether he makes you a soldier or fruit of Islam. I was taught, Attorney Shabazz, you being a soldier will make you a better attorney. Well, I can tell you right now, in the courtrooms of the United States of America, when I'm meeting my clients, when I'm interacting with judges, when I'm interacting with opposing counsel, I'm approaching it as a soldier, but not any kind of soldier. I'm approaching it as a Muslim soldier with what I've learned from Islam through Elijah Muhammad, and it made me successful before juries, successful before judges, successful when dealing toe-to-toe with police and police brutality and prosecutors and the big shots of this world. Well, I get it from the core base of Elijah Muhammad. Yes, I studied Malcolm and I love Malcolm. Yes, I'm a direct follower and student of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Yes, I've studied with essentially and served the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and today I serve his spiritual son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the apostle of the messenger, the Honorable Silus Muhammad. But I know who the Father is. I know who the Master is. Now and so we honor him on this day. We honor the messenger of Allah, and we say that time is running short. Time is running short. In the New Testament, I think it's once again, it's the Black Messiah, or Jesus says again that I must do the work. He says, I must do the work of he who sent me, for the night cometh when no man can work. And we can't take for granted that the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad will even exist in any form into the near future. And so I encourage unity around this great Black man. We thank the pioneers and his sons that have gone forth in his name, but we must be mindful that time is running and we can't take this time for granted. We want to thank the Honorable Silus Muhammad for staying true to the teachings of his mentor and his spiritual father over the years, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm here because he stands fast and he stands true, and he loves the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he reminds me honestly of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He carries the spirit of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he carries the desire to build a government. I hope I'm still on somewhere. Yeah, I'm still on. He carries the desire to build a nation of our own, a government of our own, and to achieve reparations for our people. And that's why I'm with Muhammad today, because I also want to hear that for any of those that
You're
any of
actually,
those that are
your sound is
watching,
cutting out.
is it cutting off? Am I still on?
You're still on, but your sound is going in and out. Go ahead and speak again.
How do I sound now?
That's better.
Okay, all right. So I do want to say here to the all of the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I will say that if you follow Minister Louis Farrakhan and you hold fast to Elijah, let us unite. If you follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from any other vantage point, let us unite. If you follow Minister Malcolm X, let us try to reason and reckon with each other, and let us unite. If you're a Black Panther and you understand that the Black Panther Party takes its root from the 10-point program of the Nation of Islam, and many of us who became new Black Panthers, that we Black Muslims too, I say, let us unite in this hour. And so as I close, I'm praying that the work of the Afro-Descended Nation, under the leadership of our president and our esteemed staff, that we go forth strong in this hour, and that we're blessed to do a mighty work in this hour. We carry a part of the burden of carrying the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's legacy forward. But I wish everybody well out there that's carrying forth and soldiering in the name of Elijah. Whoever your leader is out there, if your leader is Minister Louis Farrakhan, I'm going to tell you, you are my brother and my sister in the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I urge us to unite and let's go forward in this hour. We have been blessed to have heard from perhaps the greatest Black man who has ever walked the face of the planet Earth. We have been blessed to see the example of one of the greatest examples of self-improvement, self-development, doing for self, building for self, under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And none of us are greater than he. None of us are wiser than he. He teaches us to fear no God but Allah and to bow down to none beside Allah. I've carried that throughout my career. I've been attacked by some vicious enemies. I've had to deal with big top Zionists and government and other top police agencies and people that have attacked me and attacked my clients. And I'm glad to say that I stand strong in the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm one of his grandsons. And I honor all of you and whoever will hear this program. And I honor you to respect the work of the Afro-Descended Nation as we try to go forth and achieve a nation of our own. I also bring you greetings from the great African nation of Burkina Faso and the government of Burkina Faso, who's striving for Black independence in this hour. And I do want to say that land and territory is being developed and made available for us in our natural homeland, where we come from, Africa. No, we don't start just in chattel slavery. We start at the banks of the Nile River, and we start at the origin of civilization. We start 66 trillion years ago with the birth of everything from the Creator himself. We are the original people of the planet Earth. We are the gods and goddesses of the universe. And I pray to God that we are in the time of the destruction and the end of this enemy and the fall of America and the rise of our nation. You have my life commitment from the cradle to the grave in the name of Brother Khalid Muhammad and honoring the Honorable Silus Muhammad. I thank you for letting me have these words in this hour. You have my commitment to fight on. Assalamu alaikum and black power to you.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. Thank you for that powerful beginning and ending. We appreciate all the work that you do. You are a very busy man, and we appreciate the time that you're spending for our tribute today. So I think that we will close with our slideshow. If you didn't have a chance to see it in the beginning, I'll play it now, and you can drop off as you like. I want to thank you for everyone, all of our panelists, and our keynote speakers, Professor James Small and Minister Ahmed, Sadiq. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for joining us in the celebration of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So just enjoy the slides. These are some photos and I'm going to put some music behind it and drop off as you will. All right, let me share my screen. I should be sharing. Let's see. Okay. Can you see the screen? It's ridiculous.
No.
You can't see the screen that I'm sharing? Oh, darn. Let me stop. Try it again.
Yes, I could see it. Where I am.
You
You try
can?
what you just had, we could see it over here.
You can see it, but you need to center it, I think.
Need to center it. Okay. Let's see. I think it should be, it's the view that's wrong. Okay, is it centered now? Let's see.
Okay, that's better.
Is it centered now? Okay, great.
Seems to be.
Okay. So I just love Most Def and UMI Says. So I'm gonna play that and we'll let it Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the meeting and the slideshow. Again, thank you for your participation and enjoy the rest of your evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Participation